My name is Sujit Choudhry. I am a co-counsel for the Canadian Constitution Foundation. My co-counsel is Janani Shanmuganathan, and we are both on Zoom, although we do hope to attend some of the proceedings in person. As you indicated, Commissioner, the CCF has been granted standing jointly with Professor Alford. I would ask that we reserved a minute at the end of our remarks for him, and we would ask that you recognize him, please, when I conclude.
Well, if I could just interrupt, there's one grant of standing, and the norm is with one grant of standing, there is one counsel or presentation, and it's a bit unusual, and I don't think that should be the practice. The reason they were put together as one was that we streamline the process. I'm prepared to make an exception for today, but that is not because I assume you've prepared on that basis, but you should not, as a rule, proceed in that manner. If I can ask you to coordinate your presentation, whether it's Mr. Alford or you or Ms. Shanmuganathan, that's up to you, but I don't want it to break down into different parties. There are many other organizations that are sharing a standing, and they've all cooperated to have one presentation. So with that caveat, Mr. Choudhry, you can go ahead on this exceptional basis today.
And thank you, Commissioner. And we did check in with Commission Counsel before we decided to proceed this way, and so we appreciate your forbearance in this exceptional circumstance. Commissioner Rouleau, I have 4 points to make in my introductory remarks. The first is that I would like to introduce the CCF. The CCF is a legal charity which is dedicated to defending fundamental freedoms in Canada, particularly the freedom to think, believe, and express controversial or dissenting ideas and opinions. The CCF would like to publicly express its appreciation to you, Commissioner Rouleau, for granting its standing before the Commission. Second, the CCF sought standing to assist the Commission because it will address questions that are core to our mandate. The emergency proclamation and emergency measures regulations severely restricted the rights to freedom of expression, assembly, and association. The emergency economic measures order chilled freedom of expression by deterring donations to organizations opposed to the public order emergency, such as the CCF. For the CCF, the fundamental question is whether the condition in the final clause of Section 3 of the Emergencies Act was met, that the Ottawa protests and border blockades could not be effectively dealt with under any other law of Canada, federal, provincial, or municipal. This clause codifies the requirement that the Emergencies Act is a last resort, which can only be triggered when all other legal tools fall short. Third, although the Commission will necessarily focus on recent events, a sense of history should frame how it approaches this task. The Emergencies Act is a successor to the discredited War Measures Act, which was abused during the FLQ crisis in Quebec. The Emergencies Act, especially the last resort clause, was drafted to ensure that the act could never be used by a federal government against its political opponents. For 34 years, the Emergencies Act was never used. The public order emergency of 2022 was a historic first. But now that the glass has been broken on the act, it can be used again. The act was used by this government against individuals protesting vaccine mandates, but a future government of a different political stripe could use the act in response to protests against pipelines or climate change. When the Commission asks hard questions about the act's use in 2022, The Commission must also focus on the Act's potential misuse in the future and protect the right to protest, parliamentary democracy, and federalism. And what the Commission says matters not just to Canada, but globally, where the use of emergency powers is on the rise. The world will be watching our work. Fourth, the CCF would like to thank Commissioner Rouleau and the Commission Council for taking on this enormous task of public service in an extremely tight timeline on an issue of singular and momentous significance to Canada. We look forward to assisting you in any way possible.